They say sports are religious, but you want to know what else is religious? The fact that Lent has started. For this Lent season, I'm giving up desserts. Want to know why? Because my ass needs to lose 10 to 15 pounds anyway.
Starting off with that, huh?
Have an ass.
Oh my goodness.
What are you giving up for Lent, John? Sorry.
Life. I'm giving up life.
Kevin?
That's not listed.
I haven't even thought about it yet. I might think maybe it'll take me a couple of days, but I'll think of one.
I
Okay.
kind of wanted to say Transformers movies because of what Shia LaBeouf did.
Oh,
Alec, what are you giving up for Lent?
just like Kevin, I haven't thought about that yet.
Well, it's a sin. So you better think fast. Anyway, we got a lot of sports to get into. Let's play that intro and let's do it.
I'm in control of you.
I don't care.
Thank you.
This frog can kill you.
Am I missing something here? Oh, wait, there it is. Guaranteed!
Guaranteed, I'm giving up Lent. I'll give up dessert for Lent, and hopefully I have some results. Although looking at Tori Show's videos won't help me out. Anyways, welcome to Four Square Sports, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode number 35. Just you wait, because we got a gold medal game coming up soon between the U.S. and Canada in hockey. Once again, four nations face-off rematch. We have a lot to get to. We also got the NFL franchise tag, who could potentially get the tag, as well as how the Winter Olympics are going as a whole. The NBA is having a new tanking policy or anti-tanking policy, so we'll go over the rules there. A big shattering news in the MLB, and then also college basketball. And then John has Fresh Round Friday this week, so we'll get into all that. But anyways, Matt Sirianni, Kevin Zolskowicz, Alec Nava, Jon Welch. Gentlemen, how are you? Yeah, brother.
USA. USA.
Oh, I love
That's the mood heading into Sunday. And after our women did the job and win women's hockey gold and sent Hillary Knight right into the sunset the right way, the right style.
It was an amazing game between the U.S. and Canada on the women's side. And let's hope that the men can do the same thing, if not the same result. But I'm expecting a good matchup. I know. It's been four. So before we actually get into any sports talk related, I saw this on Twitter, courtesy of FanDuel Sports. February 22nd, 1980 was the Miracle on Ice, which was the last time the U.S. won gold in hockey. The gold medal game between the U.S. and Canada will be on February 22nd, 2026, 46 years to the day.
Oh. Now, I know, should USA pull this off, it's not exactly Miracle on Ice levels, but it means a lot to this country that's been looking for a gold medal ever since the Miracle on Ice run with Mike Eruzione, who is on site at Milan wearing Team USA gear.
Yeah, it's going to be something special, no matter what the outcome of this game is. But before we actually get into the Olympics, we got to start off I didn't think I'd say it. We're going to start off with the NFL because we have some things to get into in terms of the franchise tag. The franchise tag window opened on February 17th. All 32 franchises, or some of the franchises, are going to be looking, and the NFL banner disappeared again. We'll be looking to tag players for at least one more year and maybe get to a long-term deal at that point in time. So the Seattle Seahawks were the first team to, I don't know why the NFL banner is going again. Let's just see here what I can do. But I'll do that. So when it comes to the tag, one thing that I know is that the Seattle Seahawks have already made their intentions known that they're not going to tag Kenneth Walker III, who won Super Bowl MVP and was the first running back to do so for the first time in 3 decades almost. So this comes a little bit of a surprise because the Seattle Seahawks have a run-based offense. Kenneth Walker is a big part in that offense. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba was a big part in getting Seattle's offense going, but you need to have a good running attack, and Seattle's prided themselves on that for a long time. Probably going back to the days of Sean Alexander. But I got to come to John here with this one. John, why aren't they tagging Kenneth Walker III? Can you explain that to me?
So I think the science behind this decision is to actually wrap him up long term.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that he's going to get other offers, but K9 is really comfortable with being the running back and having a dual role with Charbonnet, who I just got done with surgery today, by the way.
Oh, nice.
But I think having that Batman Robin running back style gives you a longer career, and he can go look at the market and get some really good offers. But long term, Seattle wants him back. He's probably going to get a 3 or 4 year deal, and come back and be in a Seahawks jersey next season.
I think that's how Seattle's going to approach this, that they want to get him that long-term deal so they don't have to tag, because like you said, I feel like there are a lot of teams out there that might want to go after someone like Kenneth Walker III. And I think he's going to be very useful to any offense, especially in the ground attack, because of how physical he can be. So Alec, do you think that Seattle has the capital or some money in there to maybe give Kenneth Walker what he deserves, and that's a long-term contract extension?
They have $30 million in cap space, as I mentioned on the previous episodes. So yes, they do have the space. What they also want to prioritize is to extend Jackson Smith and Jigba to a long-term deal. So that's also in their priority list. Plus, Rashid Shaheed is also integral to the Seattle as both a return specialist and on the offensive receiving threat. He hasn't done a lot as a receiver for the Seahawks, but most of his damage that he's done has been on the return game. So whether it be an outside receiver or as a returner, that's how valuable he is to the Seahawks. Plus, with that $70 million in cap space, there could be a lot of trees that you can build with this, or a lot of branches that you can grow out of this tree.
Yes. And we did mention on a previous episode that Rashid Shaheed did indeed get an extension. It was during their playoff run. So they did extend Rashid Shaheed. So he's going to be a valuable part for the Seahawks for years to come. So that's a good thing. But outside of that, we want to get into other people who could be possible franchise tag candidates. One of them has been George Pickens. His name has been floating around. And you can make an argument that he was probably the best receiver on the Dallas Cowboys, given the fact that CeeDee Lamb had to miss a few games. And I think that this could very well happen if Jerry Jones negotiates correctly, which, given his track record, has been pretty hard to do, Kev.
Oh, yeah. Whenever I saw that he was a franchise tag candidate, I'm like, I can kind of see why. But at the same time, this guy should be getting an extension, not a franchise tag. Like you said, Jerry Jones doesn't have a good track record when it comes to negotiating, especially with like his best players, Micah Parsons. But I think, and even so, I feel like Dak and CeeDee Lamb are like the only pieces that the Cowboys have that Jerry Jones is like negotiated well with, and has like done a good job at retaining. I think he needs to do a better job with George Pickens in tandem with CeeDee Lamb, because if you franchise tag him, he's only going to be there for just the one more year, and then he's going to request a trade as soon as after. So what's the point of franchise tagging him if you're not just going to lock him up for longer term? If you want to keep that wide receiver duo core intact. So I would extend him instead of putting a franchise tag on him personally.
The franchise tag can be good in some ways to lock up a player for 1 year, and then if they do good in that 1 year, it can lead to bigger and better things like an extension. That's why the franchise tag exists. But I know that you mentioned a good point about George Pickens. He's a good number 2 receiver behind CeeDee Lamb. And I think that the Cowboys, knowing their offense, they need to have a good 1-2 punch at receiver. They've already got a good running back in Javonte Williams, so they want to keep a stable consistency with their offensive personnel. So I think this could absolutely be beneficial. But now there are other candidates out there besides Pickens and besides Kenneth Walker that are out there.
May I?
Yeah,
I just wanted to point out, because I think we all remember the comical, hysterical, maddening, enraging, rage bait style of contract negotiating that Jerry Jones had with Micah last year.
Right.
So it's important that I point out that Pickens has the same agent. So it's George Pickens is probably my set in concrete going to get franchise tag more than any other player this offseason.
I think so too. He's probably the biggest lock of all the teams that have the franchise tag that want to use it on somebody, because you at least want to keep him for 1 year, and then after next year, Jerry Jones and better get his act together, because the way he handled the Michael Parsons thing, he can't have that again.
We can find another Pickens. We'll go out and draft one.
Oh my God.
Oh, that holds for a future discussion. Like, what happens to either Myles Garrett or Max Crosby in the future?
Yeah. That actually is a good transition point. We'll get into the other possible franchise tags in a little bit, but it was an interesting question that was brought up on television today, earlier this week. It was, what does the future hold for guys like Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, two of the best pass rushers in the game? Myles Garrett broke the sack record this year, but in interviews, you can sense that Max Crosby, the Raiders' best pass rusher, is having a little bit of an impatient feeling surrounding the Raiders organization. The Raiders have the top overall pick in the draft. They're starting fresh with a new head coach, Clint Kubiak, who was the Seahawks' old offensive coordinator. And now Tom Brady, who's part owner of the Raiders, are probably going to have to try and convince Max Crosby to stay, but I don't know how it's going to go. John, what do you think?
Well, if you remember, the Raiders had a really interesting end of their season, because it almost felt like they were tanking. We're going to get to the NBA tanking, but it really felt like the Raiders are doing what they could. And when they pulled him off the field and told him his season was done, that's when he got pissed off and said, I'm never coming back. I'm not going to be a Raider. And so now you have a lot of fans talking about what the deal would be, what it would cost to actually go get and trade for Crosby. Myles Garrett is probably going to be part of that same value. And then people always forget, but the Bengals only extended Trey Hendrickson for a year, so he's out there.
That's right.
Too. So I think that's going to bring the value down a little bit, but you're still going to have a probably the highest trade value on Max Crosby for whatever team is going to come in and get him, whether it's the Giants or the Falcons or any team that's out there. The dollar value is going to be really high. I don't see him being a Raider, and I think he's like, he reminds me of DeMarcus Lawrence last year, where he's like, I'm not gonna win a Super Bowl with the Raiders. I'm gonna go somewhere where I have that opportunity. He's that guy for me this season.
Yeah, you bring up the Giants. Go ahead.
Or the odds he goes to the Bears, Max Crosby.
I think the odds are Bears, Giants, and probably, maybe even New England. They're the ones that have the money.
That's a good point. That the Giants, that'd be juicy, because the Giants have this big front four that sounded promising last year, didn't live up to expectations. Their defense was disappointing. But to add Max Crosby to that, think of it. You have Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Max Crosby, Quan Alexander, and and you have Abdul Carter. Oh my God, that'd be such a good defensive front.
That immediately becomes the Eagle Eaters.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Eagle Eaters. Now, Playoffs are the expectation for the Giants. Max Crosby will be a cherry on top of that, and possibly division. Forget playoffs. You're looking at division title hopes should Crosby land with the Giants.
I honestly like the sound of that. There's been a lot of optimism surrounding the Giants ever since they did get John Harbaugh as their next head coach. And John Harbaugh, Kev, as we both know, has been cooking as far as putting that coaching staff together. A lot of it is some of his Ravens personnel that he had when he was coaching them. And some are really big names, although Matt Nagy is familiar with a Harbaugh and another one in another sense when they were in Philadelphia together.
Yeah, Harbaugh. I mean, like there were some like great hires, some like questionable hires, and I think today they just hired Sam Rosengarten, who spent the last 9 years with Baltimore as director of high performance. So
Yep.
I think that's another boost that adds to this coaching staff, and with John bringing up the idea of Max Crosby don't go to the Giants. That's nice, but I just can't see that happening. The only way I could see it happening is if we trade Kayvon Thibodeau away. I know he's been like in a lot of trade rumor talks. Maybe we trade Kayvon away and then cut a lot of guys to create more in cap savings. Like I heard there's we could save maybe $50 million or something like that towards the cap if we cut a certain amount of players. Like if we cut Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okereke, John Runyon, and all those other guys that they really don't have any place on this team. Devin Singletary, Jalen Hyatt, all those guys. If we make the necessary cuts, then I can see maybe that the Giants that they can have enough to trade Kayvon Thibodeau and then make a play for a guy like Max Crosby. I don't think it'll happen. I think that they're really high on Kayvon Thibodeau. I think they want to allocate those funds that they're going to use for the cuts. Maybe on Tyler Linderbaum is a big possibility.
Yes.
Who else? Patrick Ricard, the fullback. We know how much John Harbaugh likes to run with the fullback in there, and Giants really don't have a fullback on their team really. And of course, we have to see what comes in the draft, who falls at number 5, and if it's Caleb Downs is there, I feel like Harbaugh is going to draft him because he loves he's really high on high end safeties. But if Caleb Downs isn't there, if Carnell Tate is there, you take Carnell Tate because that immediately is a security blanket and a security cushion for if we don't re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson, because you got to keep that in mind too. We have to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson. We have to re-sign Jermaine Illuminor, who I think is one of the better right tackles in the league. If you look it up, between left tackle and right tackle duos, Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor are among the top best tackle duos in the league. So I think you got to re-sign Wan'Dale, and you definitely have to re-sign Illuminor. So that's 2 must re-signs right there. And like I said, if you make the proper cuts, get enough money saved for the cap, maybe make a play on Max Crosby. But personally, I just don't see it. But that would be awesome.
It would be a lot. I think that the Raiders, if they do decide to trade away Max Crosby and the Giants decide to put their name on Max Crosby, maybe trade him away, it would cost an arm and a leg as far as draft capital and also maybe some players. I think you'd probably have to make a lot of cuts and a lot of tough decisions. I think that Max Crosby is a great player, one of the best pass rushers out there, but I think for the asking price the Raiders are going to have on him, it might be a little bit much. And I know that speaking of cuts, we do have to go into Miami for a second because John said it on a previous episode that the Dolphins would be $12 million over the cap if, in fact, they do keep Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, and Tua Tagovailoa. It was over $140 million, or close to $140 million in cap space amongst those 3 players. So what did they do? They cut Tyreek Hill, and they cut Bradley Chubb. And the way things are looking for Tua right now, his future does not look bright in Miami right now. It's looking as bleak as ever. I put it on the clips on our Instagram page. You can see those 2 clips that John made. Really, really on point. He foreshadowed what was going to happen to Miami, which is great. But now, John, the Dolphins have all this cap space by cutting those 2 players. Besides Tua, what else do you think the Dolphins can do?
I think the Dolphins at this point are trying to figure out what to do with Tua. And then they're starting over. They're rebuilding. They have one of the best running backs in the league. The first thing I would do is start supporting that run game with a better O line. They have one of the worst O lines in the league.
Yep.
And then long term, you need a secondary because they have one of the worst secondaries in the league. So I think you can go after a couple different pieces in free agency for your O line, but you're depending on the draft for the majority of your players because you're still, I mean, whether you deal Tua this year or wait till next year, you're paying him a lot of cap money. So there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for cap space.
Yep.
So you're looking at rebuilding. You're looking at getting as many young draftable pieces as you possibly can and moving forward from there. The market is going to be really interesting because you have Kyler probably coming out,
Right.
and Tua, and so there are only a couple teams, probably the Jets, that are going to be interested in somebody like Kyler or Tua as a Band-Aid before they get into the really good draft next year for a quarterback.
And before I come to Kevin Alec, I do want to say one thing. Towards the end of the year, Miami did go with Quinn Ewers. So if in fact Tua is not going to stay in Miami, whether as a backup or get another chance to start, which I don't think he deserves another chance. I think Tua has lost his luster. But if they do decide to go with Quinn Ewers, that at least you have to develop another quarterback, but at least at that point you'd be saving money and you don't have to draft a quarterback, because one of the things that you said that the Dolphins could draft another QB, I don't think that's possible because we've said it before and we'll say it again. This quarterback draft class is not special. I hate to sound negative.
It's, for me, it's one of the worst I've ever seen. But the point I want to make with, especially with the Dolphins, and Tua, is the person in that building that was willing to work with and develop Tua is gone.
Yep.
And he's in the Chargers front office now, and so you have a whole coaching staff that has been rebuilt, which means Tua, if you're keeping him, has to relearn a whole new scheme.
Yeah, and I think 6 years in, I don't think you have any time for Tua to relearn a new scheme. So I think 6 years, I think, is a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to Alec on this one. What's your thoughts on what Miami could do with a possible new regime and possibly a new quarterback?
It's a whole new era here in Miami. They're just moving along from the old. Now, what to do here? I feel there are not a lot of suitors for Tua Tagovailoa on who, if they were to trade away. So either going to have to ride with him as a bridge QB, or they're going to have to cut him outright, which is very hard to do because that's going to be a lot of dead cap that they're going to eat up if they cut Tua outright. Now, Tyreek Hill had the makings for a player that can be very likely to be cut. Age, injury, and bloated salary. So that made him very likely to be cut, and they just did that. They also cut James Daniels and Nick Westbrook-Ikine, and they're fielding trade calls for Minkah Fitzpatrick just a year after they traded back for him after initially trading him away to Pittsburgh. So now Miami's in a crossroads. I feel they're going to endure a losing season and get higher draft value if they were to get a new quarterback, because they know Tua has run his course here.
Yeah.
He's regressed to the point where he is likely staring out the door. If you go with him or whether you go with another quarterback, either way, the exit is inevitable for Tua. Doesn't matter if it's this offseason or next offseason. If they ride with Tua this year, they're just delaying the inevitable with him.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't think Miami has any time for this. I think they've done everything they can for Tua. They were sympathetic towards the concussions and all that. Like, they've tried to life without him, and it's pretty much apparent whether he's on the field or off the field, it's a problem. And Miami Daniel didn't handle that properly. But Kev, I'm going to come to you. So John mentioned Kyler Murray, but I don't think Kyler Murray would be the answer too, because much like Tua, Kyler had his time. He had 7 years in the NFL. I think I've lost patience for him. I think he's no longer useful at this point. The Arizona Cardinals might not even have patience for him either. So when it comes to guys like Kyler Murray and even Tua, where do those guys go? Are they in backup territory? And do you think that they're probably just cannon fodder for other teams?
I think it's possible that they could be backups, but I think it's more so cannon fodder for other teams. And like we brought up the Jets, and the Jets are interesting because obviously they want to get a quarterback, but like this year's quarterback class is very weak. Like we said, the next year's quarterback class is much better. I've heard scenarios to where like Kyler Murray goes to the Jets and then they trade Justin Fields to there. Maybe that could work in that same sort of sense. Maybe the Dolphins go into play there. I was just thinking in my mind, like John mentioned, that like one way to build around Devon Achane, build around that running game, is to build a great offensive line for him. And I was just thinking in my mind, what if the Dolphins draft night trade with the Jets, not their second pick overall, but their other first round pick. They trade the Jets trade that first round pick, and then the Dolphins draft Francis Mauigoa from Miami if he's available there. So I feel like that could come into play in that scenario. But Kyler Murray, I think that he's overstayed his welcome in Arizona. Same thing with Tua, and I'm not of the belief that the Dolphins would just cut him outright because, like Alex said, a lot of dead cap that they got to hit. I feel like a trade is in order probably to the Jets, because then I feel like if you trade Tua for Justin Fields, at least you have a more mobile quarterback who's not as injury prone as Tua, and you might even get a high draft pick to where you can draft a guy like Mauigoa if that trade does fall through on draft night. That's just a scenario I can think of. But I can also think that I think it's a good thing now that I see that. Like I was a little bit skeptical as to why the Dolphins did draft Quinn Ewers. Now I think this is. I think they knew like that Tua wasn't going to work out, and that they were going to eventually have to move on from him. So that's why they drafted Quinn Ewers as like a cushion. But I think now is probably the time to actually trade Tua and a player for him, or some more draft capital for him, or just straight up get a better quarterback and keep Ewers in there as opposed to him being your sole backup option.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways Miami can go about this. I think that they're heading for a total makeover with their roster and maybe even their whole offense. I love the aspect of building around Devon Achane, because this young man is proven to be a workhorse. He's effective, and I think the offensive line also didn't help Tua at all. Miami has a lot have a lot that they got to work on and address. And I think with Jeff Heffley, their new head coach, he's going to try and do everything he can to make it work. And if it's Quinn Ewers, then he has to do everything he can to try and build around their star running back, but also their young quarterback. John?
So the Jets are still paying Aaron Rodgers. I think this might be the last year of that. So they want a situation like Tua or like Kyler, where the player that they're getting, the franchise is paying the majority of the remainder of their contract, and that's what this would be. Right. So that's very ideal for them, especially with the draft capital they have this year and next year, where they could actually draft a starting quarterback in next year's class. The second thing I wanted to say was, don't sleep on the Broncos. I could totally see Tua. I mean, look what happened to them. They had their quarterback go down and lost because of a rusty quarterback that didn't have an adequate play and the weather. But like, if Tua goes to the Broncos to be a backup, like I think the Broncos actually have a better chance of getting further than they did.
I can agree with that. That's something, Alec.
The question is, are they willing to take on his contract? That is, plus they know they were rolling with Bo Nix as a starter, but Tua's cap is another thing on the situation. I don't think retained salary is a thing in the NFL, not like what the NHL does. Because I'm thinking, because you know me, I'm a hockey person. So, I doubt that retained salary is a thing in the NFL. I don't think it is. Last I checked, John.
So, well, I mean, when you have a player under contract and you trade them, you work out or negotiate who pays how much of the remainder of that contract, and the team that's trading the player pays the majority of the remainder of that contract, and basically what you're doing in that sense is you're buying the pick that you're getting from the opposite team. So I'll give you an example. Like Kyler Murray, the rest of his contract is like $45 million, and so if he went to the Jets would pay 17 of that, and the Cardinals would pay the rest. That's how that would work. So the Broncos would pay some of it, and it's almost like paying for a backup quarterback, but you're getting a like in between level QB as your backup.
Right.
Yeah, so you're paying him to be a backup to the team. I don't really see the Broncos going that way because Tua is playing on starter money, and for that, it's going to make it hard for such a trade to facilitate. So I think Miami's stuck with him the way I see it.
Wow. That'd be terrible. All right. We have to get into the Olympics now because we have a lot of excitement in the air. We mentioned it before. The U.S. is playing for gold in hockey once again, and it'll be against Canada once again. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to the U.S. women's team for winning gold for the third time in the eight times that the Winter Olympiad allowed women's hockey. 1998, 2018, 2026. And I want to give a shout out to Hillary Knight, who is going to maybe retire as the U.S.'s all-time points and goals leader, man or woman, in Olympics history for the Winter Olympics. That's amazing. And to top it off, she proposed to her girlfriend.
Brittany Bowe, U.S. speed skater. Congratulations to Hillary Knight on an amazing career, and congratulations to her and Bowe on the proposal. Whew, what a way to go out. She's the greatest U.S. hockey player of all time, men and women on the international stage. And that cannot be denied. USA had an outstanding tournament. This is one of the most dominant runs in hockey history. Not women's hockey history, hockey history, period.
Yeah.
The USA has outscored their opponents 33-2 and had 5 consecutive shutouts in this entire run. And goaltender Aaron Franco finished with a save percentage of .980 to become the first goalie in Olympic history to record 3 shutouts in a single tournament. And while she made 30 saves during the game, USA was a little uncharacteristic in the gold medal game. It was the first time our ladies were faced with adversity all Olympics long. Down 1-0 with a shorthanded goal given up to Kristen O'Neill of Canada. And we were waiting when there was going to be a moment for Marie-Philippe Poulin to strike, or Natalie Spooner for that matter. Yet it didn't happen. Franco was amazing. And guess who it was to tie the game? Hillary Knight off a point shot from the girl who idolized her growing up as a kid, Layla Edwards, one of 2 Wisconsin senior defensemen on the team alongside Caroline Harvey. And then on overtime, it was Taylor Hayes in her first Olympics after she was cut from the team that went to the Beijing Olympics, eating a perfect pass behind her own goal line through the blue and red lines to Megan Keller, who already has 2 medals of her own, a gold and a silver. Windmill move, and then to the backhand, winner, gold medal dinner.
Yep. You mentioned that stat, 33 goals to 2 in this entire run in the Olympics. That's just dominance. And I think the Olympics gold medal game against Canada, that was the first time that they were really challenged. And I was a little bit on edge, but like you said, with a little over 2 minutes to go, Hillary Knight with that critical tip in to get the goal to send it to overtime. And then in overtime, which we'll get into in a little bit, because, I have a iffiness with the rules, but that was the U.S. women did what they had to do. And they capped off an amazing run the right way. And now the men, after a 6-2 beatdown against Slovakia, who I thought was going to be more competitive today, and then Canada barely getting by Finland, and previously they barely got by Czechia, sets the stage for this. A rematch of the 4 nations face-off in a game that was phenomenal. Probably the best hockey game I've ever watched in a long time. And I can tell you this. I think both sides are ready. And I made a very, very strong statement on Discord. And I'm going to say it here. Call me crazy. The U.S. is going to beat Canada. Because Sidney Crosby is out. And I know Tage Thompson got hurt today. He wasn't on the bench, so that's going to hurt the U.S. a little bit. But overall, the U.S. has played better pace. They've been more dominant. Canada's barely gotten by the last 2 games. They should have lost to Czechia had they not come back. Same with the Finland game. Go ahead.
I do want to know about that second Czechia game. Yes, Canada beat them 5-0 on that first one. The Canada 4-3 overtime win game, I want to say this. If Canada lost that, the entire country would have rioted. Because, not because of the loss, but because on the go-ahead goal from Andre Palat, there was a missed too many men on the ice penalty that Czechia got away with.
That's right. That wasn't called.
Yeah, so Canada would have rioted had that happened. But Nick Suzuki and Mitch Marner told the refs, the puck don't lie.
And they also would have rioted in today's game had they called that there was had they called the offside on that critical power play goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but Macklin Celebrini kept his skate on the blue line by mere inches. You know, sports are a game of inches. This is also a game of inches, for that matter. Finland was up 2-0, and they were, and Finland made a comeback on Switzerland down 2-0, and then it's Canada making a comeback down 2-0 on Finland. So what goes around comes around in a funny sort of way.
And Wednesday was an amazing day for hockey as a whole because 3 of the top 4 seeds were taken to overtime to win. Yes, I said it. Overtime! Three of the top 4 teams were taken to overtime. And the U.S. almost lost to Sweden. Thank God for Quinn Hughes on the men's side. And then Canada barely survived. Finland barely survived. Slovakia handled Germany pretty well. But, like, other than that, like, this Olympic tournament has been insane. And I'm glad we're getting a really proper conclusion between arguably the best hockey rivalry ever.
Yeah, it's fitting that all of this would come down to a Canada versus U.S. showdown. And we were hyping this up. If this was going to happen with the NHL players coming back, this was the most likely matchup. A 4 nations rematch between the 2 best countries in all of hockey. And here we are again. What have we come to nowadays? Now, Canada, U.S. coasted through the groups, but the quality of which both groups are at, very different. USA had the lowest ceiling, highest floor group. Canada had Czechia and I believe Switzerland as part of that group. But they handled it with ease. The 10-2 pounding of France was, oh my goodness, what are you doing to them? Stop! Stop! The French had families!
Oh man.
But then those tough tests really were nerve-wracking for Canada, especially without Crosby, which, by the way, he's getting closer to playing the gold medal game, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. That's the update from John Cooper.
Wow. So that's a big update for Canada. They need as many weapons as they can get for this gold medal game. And I don't think we're going to get Tage Thompson back because Tage Thompson did get hurt today. Although
I do have to say about Tage Thompson is that he sat out the third period for precautionary reasons after taking a shot block. So this is precautionary for him. So should he go, we're in good hands on this top power play unit.
And I will say this, thank God Tage Thompson didn't need to come back in because it was a blow up by the third period anyway.
This needs to be the cleanest game Canada has ever played because the majority of our goals today came on all of those power plays we had.
Although one thing that Alec and Kevin did say, and I'm going to come to Kevin on this one. Kevin, you said the U.S. cannot give Canada power plays. You said that.
Correct. And I think we said this before we started recording. One thing I said was the one thing that you cannot do, especially if you're USA going in that game against Canada, you cannot give Canada power plays because in that Finland match that they won today, like they were down 2-0 and made that big miraculous comeback, and that power play that Finland gave Canada came in like the last 2 minutes, like 2:35, and in the last with 35 seconds left to go or something like that, Nathan McKinnon gets the power play goal. You cannot allow Canada to get power plays. But luckily for the USA, they do have the best penalty killing unit left in this tournament. In fact, they have a 100% penalty kill percentage in this tournament. So they have not allowed a single power play goal thus yet. But against Canada, I feel like it's probably going to happen if you let them. So if I would advise USA to not get themselves into the box, especially after what we saw from Canada today. I also said before the show that going into this game now, after watching both Canada's game against Finland and USA's game against Slovakia, in my mind, like, I think that USA is better 5-on-5 overall than Canada is, but I think Canada has the better special teams play than USA does. In terms of goalie comparison, I think that Hellebuck has looked a tad bit more poised than Jordan Binnington has. But for Canada, it seems that doesn't really matter. Like, their inconsistent play, or they're like questions about Jordan Binnington. It seems like that doesn't really matter because they always come up with the timely goals that they need to, especially in those closing minutes. We saw it happen against Czechia. We just saw it happen against Finland again, down multiple goals. So if I'm the USA, I can't sleep on Canada, even if you're going up 2 or even 3 goals. Like, I want to make sure that I put him away, getting like maybe 4 or 5 goals. And Hellebuck has to play one of his best games of his life. Because in my personal opinion, like those 2 goals that he gave up against Slovakia, that was when the game was already over. But Hellebuck has been very poised this entire tournament. I think he's by far the best goalie. This Olympics, I think he's played better, actually, this tournament, this Olympics, than I think he did in the 4 Nations, to be completely honest with you. And with Canada, I think their main problem is that they let their opponents like get ahead for seemingly no reason. They only seem to turn it up when their backs are against the wall. I think that's what makes Canada like more dangerous, because if they do trail, which is not often, the first time that they trailed was against Czechia and then Finland. And when their backs are against the wall, they seem to turn up a notch, especially in the last few minutes. You have to play a full 3 periods against this Canada team if USA is going to win the gold. I think USA does have the younger players to do it with. Canada has, I think, the better star power and, of course, the better veteran presence. But I think overall, like, as a complete unit, I think USA, this is probably the best chance they're going to get if they're going to knock off Canada, because, like we said, they haven't knocked off Canada for gold since the 1980 Miracle on Ice. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to do it. Shout out to my boy Jack Hughes, who got 2 goals today against Slovakia, wearing a Jack Hughes jersey. But the Hughes brothers, by the way, they've been huge. Quinn Hughes, that big game-winning goal in overtime against Sweden.
Yep.
Jack Hughes, the 2 goals this entire tournament. And you mentioned Sweden. Like, I was kind of expecting USA to have a tough time against Sweden, because Sweden, you got to remember, like, they're probably the 3rd best team, like, in this entire Olympics, behind Canada and USA, like, as a total unit. And USA hasn't beaten Sweden in the Olympics since 1960. So it's been 66 years since the USA has even beaten Sweden in an Olympic setting. So this is a huge win. That's a huge win for them. And now they just completely carry the momentum into today's match against Slovakia. And hopefully they can continue that against Canada. And I think Canada wanted USA. And I said it was going to be USA versus Canada all along. It was always going to be USA versus Canada. And, like, if you had to ask me, like, I cannot wrap my mind around, like, I've seen this movie time and time again. It doesn't matter, like, what I say. It just always seems to lend itself to Canada, like, coming out on top still, even after all of that. I would love nothing more than to be completely like moldy cheese. Like, whenever I look back at this, I hope USA gets that revenge that they had, that they could not get in the 4 Nations face-off, and they could get this win against Canada, because they need this. They need this kind of win for them to say that they can beat a team like Canada and take gold and beat their arch rivals. So that's what I got to say on it.
All right. I have something I was holding in this entire time. I said, call me crazy, the U.S. will beat Canada. And I'll tell you why. Canada has been playing on the edge for the last 2 games in critical knockout round games. And I think that the U.S. is well prepared. They have the momentum going. They beat the brakes off of Slovakia. The team's more powerful. The team's more talented. I think Canada has. I think Hellebuck's better. I think in the back of their minds, they have not forgotten about the Four Nations face-off. And I think that this is their time. 46 years in the making. And I'm going to say it right here. I will do a punishment, but I don't care. The U.S. will beat Canada in the gold medal game. Guarantee.
I love that confidence, Matt. I love that confidence.
I just have that feeling in the back of my head that something's going to happen for this country. Because honest to God, I think they need it. And I would be hard-pressed if it doesn't happen. And this actually would be the capper for what has been an amazing Olympics for the USA. Because this year we tied our most gold medals won in a single Winter Olympics with 10. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in the Winter Olympics context, now there aren't a lot of sports to be played in the Winter Olympics. That's big. We're in second on the podium right now in the Winter Olympics. That hasn't happened since 2006. And then also, we haven't even scratched the surface of the fact that we haven't had this many gold medals, 10, since 2002. We have been in dire strengths of Olympic success in the Winter Olympics, and here we are. And I think this would be the capper. Norway and their 17 gold medals, fine. Take it. You know what? You deserve it. You've dominated us. You've dominated everybody. But you know what? I want the capper to be having our coming out party and beating Canada finally and getting our revenge on the Four Nations face-off and proving that we are the superpower. Because if you look at Canada, when was the last time you won a Stanley Cup? 1993. Yeah, your players are coming to us, but your players are coming to us to give in America their Stanley Cups. You haven't won one since 93. And even though you may have the best bacon, you may have the best Canadian bacon out there, but you know what we have? We have more championships than your entire country combined.
And get Freebird ready.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn.
And I respect to Armchair and Randy Couture, who are good friends of ours. I'm just going to say this right now. Canada is going to be known for one thing and one thing only. The country with the leaf on their flag. That's what they'll forever be known for.
God damn, Matt. You're not holding back.
At the end of this Olympics,
excuse my language,
we will be the superpower of all sports, including hockey, which was created by you. But you gave us a platform that we needed to prove ourselves in stardom. We got better because of your rubbing in our faces all these years. But now, it's 46 years later, it's our time.
This
the
year,
red, white,
the
blue
Canadian
will
team
prevail.
Canada is going to be remembered for their double touches.
For like the curling finger.
Oh, curly. Oh, okay. Hey, I understood that now.
I get it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've seen all those Photoshop memes of the guy from Canada inserting himself and do the double touches.
It's just like,
Oh my god! But in all seriousness, no matter how this game is no matter how the gold medal game pans out, good luck to Canada, and obviously good luck to our good friends in the Canadian border. I'm hyping up myself, probably a little bit too much, but you know it's
yeah,
all in
you
good
probably
fun.
did.
It's all in good fun.
It is. I'll say for myself, in advance of this game that this is one of those games that's too close to call. Like you can't even decide it, and you feel like and lock you into it because the concerns about slow starts on USA and Canada as well, plus with the questionable some of the questions about leaving off certain players on the roster, Jason Robertson out of box,
Right?
Plus with Canada falling behind against Czechia and Finland, that sort of seemed to cancel out. Goaltending has been superb for the United States. And Canada has Jordan Binnington, who has been the best big game goaltender for their country. Power play evens out between the two of them. The United States is yet to allow a power play goal, but I feel like it's a matter of time once the United States goes on the penalty kill because Canada's a literal god squad when on the power play. If you have Celebrini, McKinnon, McDavid, Makar, and Crosby, I know it's not their five-man unit because they have Sam Reinhart on the bumper usually in that place. So, but here, the United States has that revenge factor. Canada has that factor of the superstar talent plus the motivation of keeping going. USA, of course, has the defense and the goaltending to keep up, and I feel it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be this. You know what? I'm going to say it's going to be the same exact final score from the Four Nations Championship, 3-2. I will not say who is who, but mentally I'm leaning Canada. But
Right.
you know very darn well where my heart leans. I'm bringing it out again.
America. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we actually get into the tanking rules of the NBA, I do want to give a shout out to a couple other people. I want to give a shout out to Alex Ferreira, who won the gold medal in the half pipe. I want to give a shout out to Michaela Schifrin for winning her first gold medal in 12 years. The Coreys, they won silver medal. Jordan Stolz, Alyssa Liu, all these guys who won gold medal. They all contributed to probably the most successful Olympiad in the winter events ever in our program history. And I think that even though we're going to finish in second, most likely, as Italy is still stuck at 9, and all of the Netherlands might actually catch up. But I think overall, this was a success. But to cap it off with the gold medal in hockey would be huge. And overall, well played across the board from everyone in the Olympics on the USA side. And let's bring it home.
Kevin says it'll end the same way the women's side did, 2-1 OT.
It could go to overtime. It really could go to overtime. Like it just has to.
I hope not.
Oh my God! I'll be on the edge of my seat. I'll be.
I just get the feeling.
Honestly, I don't blame you for having that feeling. It's just one of those things. Okay, so we hyped ourselves up, but now we tone it down a little bit because we got some NBA that we got to get into, and we're gonna get into the new thing, which is the anti-tanking regulations by the NBA. So the NBA is in hot water to begin with, but now they got this new anti-tanking rules to prevent stuff like this from happening. And again, the NBA tank rules don't want to appear on my screen, but here we go.
They're done with Adam Silver. Even the header's done with Adam Silver at this point.
The header doesn't want to contribute to Adam Silver. Okay, but here are the rules. Oh my God, the header. It's actually crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're all done with Adam Silver. Even this header is done with Adam Silver.
Okay. Here we go. So here are the rules. First round draft picks can be protected only for top 4 or top 14 plus sections. Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. Oh my God, the NBA just doesn't like us today. No longer allowing a team to pick in the top 4 in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. Teams can pick in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year records. Lottery extended to include all play-in teams. And flat odds for all lottery teams. So what does this mean? Well, for starters, it means that the NBA draft lottery now goes to 18 teams instead of 14 teams. Because again, remember, all the play-in teams, that's only 12 teams that actually avoid the play-in tournament or eliminate altogether. So 18 teams are not going to be a part of this. That's a lot. And I know the NBA, we talked about them last time. They haven't gotten a good rep with fans because of what's been going on. Alan talked about Giannis being partly associated with Kalshi, which actually now has advertising for it. John, I'm going to come to you. When it comes to the NBA and their anti-tanking rules, how do you like it? Do you think you approve of them? Do you not like them? What's your mind on this?
Well, I'm really curious to see how they're going to enforce this, how they're going to punish a team if they get caught trying to tank. As we saw last year with the draft, the team that got the first pick wasn't tanking at all. But
right.
So it's really none of it makes sense to me, and this is just pasta against the wall to see what sticks. I don't have faith in Adam Silver anymore at all. So I don't know how much of this is just hot air.
All right, fair enough. Kev, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as John. It's really confusing when you do look at it. I don't like the fact that that the lottery is going to extend to include all play-in teams, personally, because I think it should automatically go to the worst of the worst teams that should be getting the highest odds for the lottery draft pick. Because, like we said, what the last draft lottery, again, we're pretty much of the mindset that that's like rigged in some way, because the Wizards with the worst record last year, they don't get the top pick. They don't even get the top 5 pick. They got, like, I think, outside the top 5, and they gave it to the Mavericks. And because we're speculating it's because of the Luka Doncic trade, and that Adam Silver or whoever wanted to consolidate them with the consolation prize and make sure that they're covered by trading Luka. They'll get Cooper Flag for essentially free because of the way that they rigged it. And now I think this is a response to that, to try to make it to where that kind of thing doesn't happen again. Well, in the sense that, like, teams can't tank to get that high draft pick. But you kind of seen a similar scenario like this already with the NBA. Like, there was the last time the Pacers versus the Knicks, the Pacers won the game, and they had all their starters in there. The very next game, they sat all their starters and put them on the injury report when they were fully healthy. And the NBA was fined the Pacers an exorbitant amount of money because I don't know if they're just trying to find a bigger way to enforce that. If it's just like, because finding the team isn't going to do anything. Like, the team has a lot of money as is. I think the only way that they can really enforce this is because losing a draft pick and really trying to make it to where teams can actually compete instead of just straight forcing themselves to tank to try to get a higher draft pick. I'm not of the mindset against tanking, but I'm also not of the mindset for it either. But like John said, these rules that they have set in place right now are a bit confusing to decipher. So it'll be interesting to see how Adam Silver actually implements it and enforces it. Again, I'm just like John. I don't have any faith in Adam Silver anymore, especially after this.
He's lost all credibility in my regards. Alec, your thoughts on these rules and regulations that Adam Silver is trying to implement?
I mean, it was not so long ago that Adam Silver was widely regarded as the best commissioner of the 4 major North American professional sports. I mean, it was like between 3 and 5 years ago when he was regarded as such, but now he's just tanked his reputation as a commissioner. I asked this question last week, or is he just a puppet for gambling companies at this point? Because I mean, let's look at it. The gambling companies may be pulling the strings on him, and Adam Silver's just basically a puppet for them. FanDuel, DraftKings, you name it. It's like the gambling companies are now the ones in control of the NBA and not Adam Silver. He's lost his grip. He's lost the league. He's lost the respect of the players, and he's lost all control of it. So these tanking regulations are just, I can't even define the words to describe as such. If you're wanting to have a draft lottery, I feel now people are going to determine this as NHL bias, but the NHL has a proper draft lottery system for how to handle who gets the first overall pick for that matter. That it should be the top 3 getting the top 3 picks are determined in draft lottery, and then the rest of the order is determined from 4th pick onwards by record. That's how it should be done. No need for all these extensive rules and all of that. Because like Kevin said, I too am not for tanking, but I'm not against it either. It's just a complicated matter. What the PWHL does, it has the points you make up in the standings after you get eliminated also determine your draft position. But in a league that with 30 teams like the NBA, that's a harder loophole to get around. So it's not really a perfect solution, but the closest to being the best possible solution is the NHL was doing.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the way Adam Silver is doing this, I think he's overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
Like that's what he's doing.
However, I will say this, play-in teams shouldn't be a part of the draft lottery.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's the only thing that I can agree with.
Like, I agree with that 100%. Like, if you're competing to get in a playoff spot, you should not have any say in getting a high draft pick or potentially a high draft pick. I'm sorry. You shouldn't. Like that's why America was pissed when the Mavericks got the number 1 overall pick, because they were in the play-in tournament and they traded Luka away. It's like Armstrong was trying to compensate for the Mavericks' own dysfunction, Nico Harris's own stupid mistake.
Oh my god. What was that what Ryan said? Nico Harris said CTE?
Yep. That's him. That's what he said.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was a soundbite for the ages. Okay, so we gotta get into a commercial break, but before we do, we gotta bring in our sponsor, DAS Technology Consulting. DAS Technology Consulting is there for you for all your IT infrastructure needs, your third-party maintenance. You want to save 30 to 70% on your equipment that you're getting from IT companies? Third-party maintenance is there for you, and DAS Technology Consulting does it. And the ad and the banners are not going away, but you won't go away. Darren Sirianni's explanation as to what the mission is for DAS Technology Consulting. Take a listen.
Our mission is to deliver high quality, scalable, and secure data center services that ensure seamless operations for clients across various industries, offering best-in-class data center services all under one roof.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was DAS Technology Consulting, one of the best sponsors out there for a show like ours. Thank you, DAS Technology Consulting, for everything you do. But for that, we have to get into hour number 2 of Foursquare Sports. Again, it's Matt Sirianni, Kevin Zellis, Colin Gonzalez, Jon Welch. We got into a lot in the first hour, but we got to get into a lot of other things like John's Fresh Founder Fried. He's on the hot seat for this week. He's as part of the rotation. We're going to get into Major League Baseball, as there was a bombshell, and then a couple of NCAA college basketball news and a new game called Bubble, Bracket, or Busted. So, but before we get into that, we got to get into Major League Baseball first, because there was a bombshell announcement out of Major League Baseball, and that revolves around the MLBPA head, Tony Clark. And Tony Clark was ousted, or he resigned as MLBPA because of one thing, and that was the fact that he was allegedly, I don't know why the headers are working today. This is weird. But he was discovered to have had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law while they were working in the MLBPA together. The sister-in-law has been with the MLBPA since 2023. Obviously, a divorce is coming, number 1. Number 2, this is like the concert video all over again. I forget the band that was. Oh, it was Coldplay.
Coldplay.
Number 2. Number 3. This is a bad look on Major League Baseball and the Players Association as a whole. Brent Myers is the new head of the MLBPA, and I can tell you right now, Major League Baseball has got a lot to recover from this. First off, I got to start off with Kevin. What were your thoughts when you heard the news about what was going on?
It's absolutely disgusting. Like it's just crazy. Like we've seen the Steve Tisch situation with him being in the Epstein files and all that for the Giants, and how the Giants still have neglected to address that properly. And now we're seeing this nonsense with Tony Clark having inappropriate relations with sister-in-law. It's absolutely disgusting. It's something that the CBA definitely had to address. They had to let him go after hearing about that. But it also leaves a lot of uncertainty with how the CBA is going to be ran now. I know that they got a new person in there. I'm forgetting what their name is, but I hope that person actually has a big voice in the room and actually gets this CBA to where it needs to be. And to include along this news regarding the CBA, I mean, I saw a tweet yesterday saying that MLB owners have funded a war chest around $75 million per team to provide for financial protection if games are lost due to a work stoppage. So that tells me that the MLB owners believe that there is, in fact, going to be a lockout next year, which scares me because if the owners are already having money like
Kevin, so apoplectic, he froze.
Worst. It's over $2 billion worth of money that the MLB owners are giving to teams just in case there is a lockout. There shouldn't be a lockout in the case if you just implement everything right and get everything right with a cap and floor, and if you allocate the financial structure soundly. But to see that they have a backup of surplus money now, why couldn't they do this for all the teams earlier that were in financial situations to where they couldn't, pay their players because of no cap? Why couldn't they do that earlier? Why is it now, with all of a sudden, like with the lockout rumors, that the MLB owners decide, okay, now let's set aside money for teams just in case it happens? Like, no, you don't prepare. If you fail to prepare to fail. It's exactly what's happening here. MLB owners are not preparing to fix this. They're preparing as if it was going to fail, if the CBA is going to fail, and that there is going to be a lockout. And it seems like the early indications are that there is going to be. And that's a very scary thought.
You know what? That was the core of the day for me. If you don't prepare. If you fail to prepare to fail. Like, that to me, I think, is the core of the day, because it's true. But I don't like the lazy attitude that Major League Baseball's owners and players are having towards this. Like you said, they're in this mindset like, okay, there's going to be a lockout. And I feel like they hear from the media every day, and there's probably the speculations growing on them, and they're probably succumbing to the media and saying, you know what, I think maybe there should be a lockout. But in the presence of Tony Clark being gone because of this news, first off, it's disgusting, number one. And this could very much, in fact, affect the negotiations with the CBA and the players and the owners, because I feel like with Tony Clark in there was consistency. There was at least some idea of what the MLBPA wants, what Tony Clark wants. But now with the new voice in there, Brent Myers, you're probably going to have to strategize differently if you're the owners. And ultimately, I think the players are going to have to talk or negotiate for themselves if this guy, Brent Myers, can't talk for them. Because Tony Clark, his best thing was he could speak for the players in a good manner. Brent Myers, we don't know much about him yet. So that's a big, big step that could be a hindrance to the negotiations. Alec, your thoughts on everything?
Oh man, for a moment I thought when I saw this, when the time and when Kevin was going on with his statement, I was over here thinking about, there's a South Park episode for everything when Randy Marsh finds out about PC principal and strong woman who were working at the same at South Park Elementary School, that he finds out they're both in a relationship and he just vomits at finding out.
No.
That's kind of where it was going here about the whole inappropriate relationship with Tony Clark and his sister-in-law. Oh, come on. There's a South Park episode for everything.
Yeah.
But, oh my goodness.
Probably.
This is not a good look for the MLBPA, and it's not a good look for the MLB either. Brent Meyer, he does come with history, because 2 springs ago, former MLBPA attorney Harry Marino, he organized a group to take out Meyer. And does the player leaders, they pledged to support the removal of Meyer. Clark was seeing the attempt at Meyer's job as an indirect challenge to his own, and he mobilized to help save him, who sent players a letter of more than 2,000 words outlining such as achievements, referring to the 2022 negotiations. But that was because of a 99-day lockout ending when the subcommittee voted 8-0 against the final offer, but was outvoted 26-4 by rank and file that wanted no part of missing games in the MLB. So with Meyer back on the fold, I am not too confident about if this can get done.
I mean, yes, there's familiarity with him. But again, he's taking on a bigger role as part of the MLBPA. I think that's probably going to be the hindrance for him trying to get this whole thing done and make sure that the CBA goes through.
Man, it feels like all signs are pointing to the entire 2027 season being partially or completely wiped out.
John, what are your thoughts on all this?
This is going to be historic in how baseball turns this corner and continues to stay relevant. Honestly, long term, I honestly believe that there will be a strike. I honestly believe that there's going to be a lot of conversation about how the gap between the owners and the players is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
This is bigger than the last lockout. This is bigger than anything that Major League Baseball has faced in the last, 25, 30 years. So it's really complicated. And, we've been talking about lasers and replacing umpires, but all of that really, really pales in comparison to what happens next, what happens at the next collective bargaining agreement, and who comes out on top, whether it's the players or the owners, because that decides how relevant the MLB continues to be after 2028.
That's a fair point. But
Yeah.
I feel like both sides shouldn't want a way. We shouldn't be talking about who won at the CBA agreement. But there shouldn't be a winner. Both sides should just focus on one thing. Both sides winning, so the fans win and everybody wins. There shouldn't be no competitive thing where it's like, oh, if we get a salary cap, we win if you're the owners. And then the players would be like, oh, if we get a floor but no cap, that's a win for us. Like there shouldn't be about winning. It should be about putting a damn product together. That's what this should be about.
Hasn't been about that in a long time.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It's a shame, a big time shame, because it has to be focusing on a resolution between the two sides so that you have to appease both sides, not too much power to one side or too much power to the other.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's just like these guys need to it's like the Spider-Man meme almost, where they're pointing at each other like, oh yeah, or they're like anchovies on both sides. That's what they're a bunch of anchovies. Like it's like that's what it is. It's just a bunch of noise and a bunch of argument, a bunch of jibber jabber on both sides, and unfortunately, they're acting like children in the process. That's the worst part of it all.
But don't put those anchovies on the pizza.
I wouldn't do that. All I know is I wouldn't want them bouncing around my restaurant.
Yeah, me neither. That's bad.
Oh man, but I hope that something gets done. But I think this is a roadblock, a massive roadblock that I think Major League Baseball needs to overcome. Wow. Now we're going to get into some college basketball. Hopefully the tabs work. Okay, we're good. All right, so college basketball is around the corner. We are in late February, which is actually kind of amazing. And there's a new number one. It's my team that I've been saying all season long. The Michigan Wolverines are the number one team in the country after Arizona lost back-to-back games that 1 week on the week of Valentine's Day. And I wish I had my clip up here, but I have my fresh fighter pride to prove it. I'll put that soon. But they beat Purdue in Mackey Arena by 11, their first game after being ranked number one. So that is massive in its own right, because Purdue, Mackey Arena, that's one of the toughest places to play. And Michigan handled them. At one point, they were up by close to 20 points. It was almost a runaway. And Michigan's been doing this all season long. And they got that critical game with Duke in Washington, D.C. coming up. That should be a gold mine game. Because I think both these teams, two of the top three teams in the country, should be a good game. And I know John was pointing at this game and circling this game on the calendar when he said, and I quote, "Let them play Duke and then we can talk." I have too good a memory of things. And so I do want to stick to the Big Ten with another news thing when I say this. Nick Cronin, who is the head coach of UCLA, ejected a player after a loss to Michigan State on the road. And then Mick Cronin proceeded to post-game. I don't know why there's noise in the background. Hold on.
Who's making that noise, by the way?
I don't know. It's not me. Let's see. I think we're good. Okay, I think we're good. Anyway, Mick Cronin ejected a player during the game because apparently the environment at Michigan State was so loud. But then he has the guts to call out a reporter after the UCLA loss against Michigan State, saying, "I don't give a rat's behind. The sound in Michigan State is loud." And I don't know if Mick Cronin got a fine for that. And I kind of wish we had a Michigan State person like Patrick Rush or Jake Hogger who probably watched that game from start to finish. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, we got some noises in the back.
Hey, I mean, that noise is all over the place. It's hard to tell about the Mick Cronin, you know what?
Yeah, it's one of those things where Mick Cronin, first off, UCLA is on a downward spiral. That's the first thing I got to say. You have to have some sense of control over your players and over your team and composure when you're on a losing skid. That's number one. Number two, UCLA, they're in a tough conference, but this is what they signed up for. But calling out the media like that, that's always a big no-no when you're calling out the media and saying, I don't give a rat's A what you think, because the media, as annoying as they can be, they have a sense of importance in sports, and unfortunately, you gotta respect them.
Exactly. We are media members too.
Yeah, pretty much. We are part of KXP, the On Experience, 102.3 FM. So I want to touch on that with you, Kevin. Kevin, when you hear everything that's going on with UCLA, with Mick Cronin losing control a little bit and UCLA skidding, does this make for UCLA to fall out of the tournament completely?
It's definitely possible. I mean, it's definitely not a good look on Mick Cronin, the coach, for sure. And I watched that whole interaction that he had with the reporter that you were referring to. It was, right. I think it was kind of funny that like he was like, yeah, I don't give a rat's behind like what the student section thinks, and then like he could have just left it at that. And then he was like, you really think he just kept pressing him, the reporters, like, you really think I care about the Michigan State student section? And then the reporter was like, no, I was just asking a question. It's like, are you raising your voice at me? Like it's like if you was like a angry parent. I thought that was funny.
Right,
and I'm
right.
Dude, relax. I get it that it was like a pretty terrible loss, but at the same time, like, you got to keep your composure, man. I mean, like, the reporter's just asking a question. So, like, did the Michigan State crowd affect your team's play? Is basically what he was saying. And it's like, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But the fact of the matter is, we didn't play a good game, and I don't think it really mattered. That's what he should have said, instead of saying that quote that he did. So I think Mick Cronin definitely could have handled that situation better. I get emotions were high, and yeah. I get it. I've been a falter for that too. Like, whenever my team loses like against like a bad team, I get really bad because like this shouldn't happen. So of course I understand him, but at the same time, you're a coach, you're a role model. You got to act more professionally than that. Does it take him out of the March Madness bracket? Maybe. I'll have to see how the whole like bubble thing unfolds. It doesn't seem like UCLA is in a good spot right now, so they might be out of the tournament for all is concerned.
Yeah, and I think the problem with UCLA is they play in a really stacked conference. Obviously, like Purdue and Michigan State, but like you gotta hang in there a little bit longer. I'm looking at the Big Ten standings. I'm looking right now. UCLA is in the top 7 of the conference, and the Big Ten is projected to get at least 10 or 11 bids in the tournament. But you're looking at other teams like USC or Ohio State that could potentially jump you. And if you're looking at the way the amount of games that UCLA has left on their schedule, I'm going to go to their schedule right now. Their next game, they got to play at home against Illinois, top 10 team, going to be hard. And then they're 17-9. They're 9th in the Big Ten. They got Illinois, USC, Minnesota, Nebraska, and USC again. So they have to weather the storm.
All right, so from what I'm seeing from the recent CBS bracketology is that they're the projected number 9 seed in the South region, and they're going to draw Clemson in the first round as far as it's all concerned. So, right. So do I think this is going to take them out of March Madness? No. Is it a bad look on Mick Cronin? Absolutely. Two things can be true at the same time. I don't think it takes them out of March Madness, but this is going to put a distraction to the players in the locker room.
Big time distraction. You lose to Michigan by 30 and you lose to Michigan State by 23, and you have to finish the season strong. You got to focus on the conference tournament. I mean, you can't let emotions get the best of you this late in the year. I know tensions are high because we got March Madness around the corner, but you got to keep your composure, and you got to make sure your kids, first off, you're influencing your students and your players with the way you act. That's number one. And you also have to coach. And he was yelling at his player. He was telling him to get out after he got ejected. He ejected the player. The referee didn't eject him. He got a flagrant foul, and then the player, and then Mick Cronin goes to play, like, hey, get out. Like a Gordon Ramsay. Get out.
Except he's not encouraging the player. He's discouraging the player. Like,
exactly.
You're just ejecting him for whatever the reason is, whatever rats what the reason is.
Exactly. All right. Next, we're going to go to the Big 12 conference for some really big news. Texas Tech's March Madness championship hopes took a little bit of a hit because JT Toppin, one of their players, is out for the year with an ACL injury. He suffered it in the last game. Yep. Brutal. And Texas Tech was one of the top teams in the Big 12. They upset Arizona. They beat three of the top 4 teams. They beat Duke. They beat Houston, and they beat Arizona. And now here they are. Their season's on the ropes. First off, Kev, Texas Tech is a talented team. They've been in really good position for some time now. How big of a blow is this for the Red Raiders?
It's a big blow. Like you said, JT Toppin is probably their best player like that they have. And for him to go down like that whenever he did is very tough because Texas Tech, I know Texas Tech is a really good team. I mean, we got them. They got us. I know the way that they play. And like you said, they had 3 really good wins against us, Duke, and Arizona, who are no slouches at all, and potentially could be Final Four teams. So Texas Tech, before that injury, you would think that Texas Tech would at least be an Elite 8 team or have a really good deep run. But now losing JT Toppin, that really stinks for them because losing to Arizona State, they're not a good team either. But then you look back at he got hurt during that game, and then you can see why they lost there. Now it seems like all they have to do is really just survive the like you said, right the ship, so to speak, right out the rest of the season, finish strong, and then see what the March Madness bracket on their side looks like, and maybe they can make it out of the first couple of rounds, and we'll see what happens then. They really need to have guys that can. They're going to go on a deep run this year. Like we had them going, to start the year when they were fully healthy. Now with losing JT Toppin, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
Yeah, it's a shame. It really is because I thought this team was going to do something special. But I think I like what you said. They're looking at maybe a 4 or 5 seed, depending on how they finish the season. If they're a 6 seed, I think that'd be probably appropriate. They might slide to 6. Say they get to the Sweet 16. I think by then, you're probably going to see all their momentum fall out. And and again, for a team that has really good quality wins, but they did lose to teams like UCF and they did lose to teams like Arizona State. But again, this is not ideal for a team that has high expectations. And speaking of high expectations, there are many teams on the bubble or outside the bubble in a bad way that we need to go over because we don't know exactly where we're going to go. Did I just do the 6-7? Put my hands up.
I didn't see.
Kev, I swear to God. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Bracket, Bubble, or Busted. And in this game...
Don't encourage him, Con.
Apparently, I know
Well, Matt, Kev, if you know anything, John's the master rage baiter of this group.
Hey, listen.
Of course
we love him. He is the rage baiter, but we love him. Anyway, so for Bracket, Bubble, or Busted, I'm going to give each of you 2 teams each. And you're going to tell me whether this team is a bracket team, whether they're definitely in the bracket from your perspective, a bubble team, meaning they're in the last 4 into the next 4 out, which would be the teams 5 through 8 that are out. So the first 8 teams out. Or busted, meaning not in the bracket at all. I'm going to start off with Kevin. I mentioned UCF earlier. I got the UCF team as your first team. Are they bracket, bubble, or busted, Kev?
I think they're a bracket team because if you look at their schedule, they're 18-7 overall, which is not bad at all in a Big 12 tough conference. And the marquee wins that they did have were against ranked Kansas and against Texas Tech before they lost JT Toppin. So I think they definitely have a very formidable squad that I think could surprise and get some upsets here and there in the bracket. So I definitely think they could be their bracket team.
Okay, good. I like that. All right, now I'm going to come to Alec. I got Ohio State, a team that got their first quad 1 win, a ranked win over Wisconsin. They're allergic to quad 1 wins. I think their Wisconsin one, was their first quad 1 win of the year. But anyway, you look at their resume, Alec. Is Ohio State a bracket team, a bubble team, or a busted team?
I think they are a busted team because if you look at the remaining schedule, they're going to draw Michigan State, they're going to draw Iowa, they're going to draw Purdue, and they're going to draw Indiana. That's not counting their game against Penn State, by the way, because Penn State's not at that same level it's what Michigan State, Iowa, Purdue, and Indiana are. And those 4 teams that I mentioned, they're all March Madness teams. Michigan State and Purdue are locks to make it in. Iowa and Indiana, I could see on the bracket, but for the most part, from what I've seen from Ohio State, I think they are a busted team.
Okay. I mean, they are allergic to quad one wins, and actually, John
Yeah.
just sent an image here. I gotta see what he sent us. Oh wow, the price experiment. The prices for the DC game between Michigan and Duke. Get-in price for Wizards Pacers is $16 tonight. Get-in price for Michigan Duke $319.
Oh my, yeesh.
That should
That's
just
a
tell you
scam.
everything you need to know about, one, the Washington Wizards, and two, how hyped this game is going to be. Speaking of John, let's go to him. So I got a West Coast Conference team for you. I mentioned St. Mary's and I mentioned Gonzaga. And there's a third team that's trying to get in. That is Santa Clara, a team that hasn't been to the dance in some time. John, Santa Clara, bracket, bubble, or busted?
Trying to piss Alec off, but it's not working.
Oh God!
You
I know
cannot
you're
rage
saying-
me. You cannot. Oh, and here's Kev with the little regular show. Whoa!
I was doing the Doctor Strange thing, opening the portal. I was like,
I like it. I like that. All right, so I believe at this point, after the loss to Gonzaga, that Santa Clara is probably going to be a bubble team.
Okay.
They have to play them one more time. It's the last game of the season, so I think it's going to come down to what they can put together between now and then, and I think that they're probably on the bubble, but I'm guessing that they're in.
Okay, that's fair. I like that. All right, back to Kevin. We're going to go with another Big 12 team. TCU, a scrappy team that's trying to find their way into the fold in the Big 12, trying to find themselves in the top half of the conference. Kev, TCU, bracket, bubble, or busted?
I think bubble team. I think it would be very interesting if they do make the bracket. They have had a couple of good wins. They did beat Florida earlier in the year. They beat Iowa State 2 games ago, and they almost beat Michigan early on in the year. They only lost to Michigan by 4.
They did.
The biggest flaw for them is their conference record. It's not the best conference record, but I do think they can finish out the season strong because they really only have one. Well, actually, now I think that they don't really have any tough games left in their schedule because I look at the rest of their games. They have West Virginia, Arizona State, Kansas State, Texas Tech with no JT Toppins that might actually be winnable for them, and Cincinnati. So I think they can close out their season strong, but I don't know if they can necessarily be a bracket team. I think it'll be really tough for them. But I think they do have quality wins here or there. And they almost beat Kansas. They've lost to them by 4 in overtime. So that might be enough to get them in the bracket. But I see them as a slight bubble team, maybe just missing.
Just missing on the bubble. Okay. Next, we're going to go to Alec. Another Big Ten team for Alec. The USC Trojans, a team that is above 500 in their conference record. Again, another team that's trying to jockey for position for the Big Ten tournament, which now expanded to 18 teams. They've had their fair share of quality wins. Bracket, bubble, or busted for USC, Alec?
I have them firmly on the bracket, USC.
Okay.
Yeah, Oregon's a conference opponent, yet Oregon is not in the latest bracketology. UCLA, that's certainly become a winnable game right now after the Mick Cronin saga and him ejecting his old player and the I don't give a rat's you know what in the interview. And so it's now become a winnable game at UCLA. So Nebraska, I don't think USC is going to beat them, but Washington and UCLA again, they have 2 games against UCLA to close out this season. And I think those are winnable games. At the best, they can go undefeated against them. At the worst, UCLA takes both of them. It can be an even split between the 2 of them, but I think those are 2 winnable games after the Mick Cronin and saga. And USC, even though they lost to Ohio State and Illinois decisively, by the way, USC has picked it up as of late where they took down Penn State, Indiana. While they have been so-and-so in conference play, but the rest of the opponents, they should. I can see them going at the best. The best case scenario for USC the rest of the way is 4-1. But stranger things have happened. But I see them as a bracket team.
Okay, bracket. Last one goes to John. This is the Missouri Tigers of the SEC. Missouri is 18-8 right now, 5th in the loaded SEC. They've beaten Florida earlier in the year. They beat Vanderbilt this past Wednesday. They're, like I said, top 5 in the conference. The SEC is looking to get a lot of bids in. Missouri, bracket, bubble, or busted?
They are bracket. They are in. I expect them to be out by probably the second round. But with that win over Vandy, I think that kind of gives them a much better opportunity to be on the bracket at this point, going down to the end of the season.
All right. I like it. Okay. So that is bracket, bubble, or busted. Now, to conclude the college basketball segment, we do have to get into 2 games that will include the top 4 teams by ranking that will happen on Saturday. And Texas Tech has beaten 4 of them. We know this already. But we're going to start off with our predictions for 2 games, and 2 games only. Michigan and Duke. The game that's hyped me up all week long in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Kev, to give you perspective on how this game is expected to go, Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite. Where do you lean?
I'm leaning Michigan on this one. I think that Duke, for as good as they've been, I think that they've regressed. I don't think they're as good of a team as they were last year when they did have Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel and Tyrese Proctor. I think they're still a good team. I think Cam Boozer is a really good player. I think he's definitely going to be a great player for them for years to come, or depending on if he goes and declares for the NBA draft, which, again, I'm not, me with NBA drafts. I don't like it when players go to the draft after playing college for 1 year like Cooper Flagg did. But for Cooper Flagg, he has been playing pretty good for the NBA, so I'll give him that. But for this game, I think Michigan, is on another level when it comes to how they've been playing. I mean, again, I said I've had my fair share of criticisms on them, but I'm like, I need to see how they play a full season. And after they did lose that 1 game, they haven't lost a game since. And I think they've been pretty poised all the way through, and they've been doing well against their opponents. Duke is going to be a really tough customer. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it might even go into overtime, but I do think Michigan will win, maybe by like 5 points. I think it should be a close game, though.
Okay. Alec, your thoughts?
I'll say this is going to be a battle of a well-rounded team that's Michigan against a top-heavy team that is Duke. That doesn't mean that Duke doesn't have a good bench, but most of their game plan relies around Cameron Boozer and Isaiah Evans, those two. Between them and Patrick Nong, but a second, there's no other player that averages double digits in points. Michigan, on the contrary, they have 5 players averaging double digits, and when you add on players that average at least 8 points per game, Duke has 4, while Michigan has 7 of them averaging at least 8 points per game. So Dusty May has some well-rounded options around him between Yaxel Lendenberg, Morris Johnson Jr., Ade Mara, Elliot Cadeau, and Trey McKinney for that 5 that are averaging double digits. And they're all reliable all throughout. So Dusty May has his options for him. Cameron Boozer will make this a game, but I like Michigan going into this one.
All right, John?
I really like Michigan's offense. This is going to be one of the highest scoring college games of the season because both front courts are just that intense. And I wouldn't be surprised if these two teams face each other in the Final Four. The other thing that I think needs to be pointed out is that this is going to be a game that decides who the number 1 seed is going into the tournament as well.
Good point.
So having said that, and because of what I said earlier, I'm going to go against the grain and pick Duke to be the upset.
Okay. I wish I had the clip that of my Fresh Finder Fried about Michigan. I'm going with Michigan. I just think that this team has been absolutely dominant. They look the part of the number 1 team in the country. I know Duke has had their fair share of flaws. I know the ACC is a really tough conference this year, but I think that when a team like Michigan can dominate you by double digits, I think that's just a scary sight. And while Duke is arguably the best team in the ACC, and they are the best team in the ACC, I think that the ACC is not as strong as the Big Ten. They don't make them like they do in the Big Ten. And Dusty May has just coached this team brilliantly. Between him and John Shire, I think that the head coaching matchup belongs to Michigan. And I think this game belongs to Michigan. I'm going to say they win by 6.
That's respectable.
Yeah. Okay, next up, and this is going to be a game that's also going on. We have Houston and Arizona at 3 p.m. on ABC. Houston's a 4.5-point favorite. The winner of this game is in first place in the Big 12 Conference. 2 versus 4 in the country. Kev, this is your conference. I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so this game, I think I told you on the phone like a few days ago that I was circling like this section of games, and I thought that the toughest team that was going to be out of those 3 was Iowa State, because I know how tough they play, and I know they're always a tough out, especially for Houston. They always play Houston pretty hard, and I was correct. Iowa State did beat Houston. But in that game, like, it was a lot of bad officiating, and also and even with all the flaws that Houston had, they only lost by 3 points.
Right.
And what's it called? The biggest issue I had in that game, Iowa State had a 46% free throw shooter. He got fouled like maybe 3 or 4 times. Houston could not rebound the ball once whenever he missed the free throw. You know he's going to miss. But why can't you rebound the ball? I will have no idea. That can't happen against Arizona.
No.
Because Arizona is a really good rebounding team. They're a good team overall. The big issue I see with Houston is, like I said, I think I said this maybe a few episodes ago. I'm not sure which episode it was. But the biggest flaw I see with Houston is their bigs. Chris Sinak is a freshman. JoJo Tugler is a veteran who doesn't get a lot of points scored. He's always in foul trouble. He's a good rebounder. And Sacco, who they got transferred from UCF, I think he was transferred from, he's been fine, but I think he's not as effective. So I think it's going to be, if Chris Sinak plays well tomorrow, I think Houston wins. But Arizona, they've looked a little shy the past few games. We mentioned the back-to-back losses between Kansas and Texas Tech before the JT Toppin injury. They almost lost. Sam Houston State. Thank you, Alec. So, but they almost lost Arizona. They almost lost to BYU twice, and that's very concerning. And I know they're not going to have Koa Pete because due to injuries. So that's a piece that Arizona is not going to have. Also, you factor into the fact that they're going to be playing this game here in the Fertitta Center where Houston plays their home games.
Yep.
They don't lose at home. Houston does not lose at home. They might struggle on the road from time to time, but when they're in the Fertitta Center, they're pretty much unbeatable in the Fertitta Center. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. The last time that they did lose in the Fertitta Center was against Texas Tech. I think either last year or like 2 years ago against Texas Tech. They simply just don't lose at home. And I think this game won't be any different because I think Arizona's, like I said, is a little rattled. I do think that Kingston Fleming is going to be fine. He's been an absolute beast as a true freshman. He might even go into the NBA next year, which is a scary thought for me because I think he's a damn good player. Milo Suzanne in his second year as a UH Cougar has looked pretty nice as a complimenting piece. Sharp is on a mission this year after what happened last year, not traveling on the final possession in the national championship. He's on an absolute mission. He now currently holds the most 3-pointers made in University of Houston history. I think he's going to hit 300 threes by the time the season ends, which is crazy to think about. Bench concerns me a little bit because Mercy Miller and Isaiah Harwell were the two pieces that were supposed to be, very high up on. They were supposed to be like the big scorers off the bench. Hasn't really been the case this year. There have been flashes where Mercy Miller has looked like fine whenever he does get more minutes. And Harwell was supposed to be the best 5-star recruit out of him, Sinak, and Flemings. Oddly enough, he's been the worst out of the three. Flemings has been the best out of them. If Kelvin Sampson gives Mercy Miller and Harwell more playing time to let them develop and actually score, I think that would bode well, especially in this game against Arizona. And like I said, if Chris Sinak doesn't get into foul trouble, and he actually scores double-digit points and gets rebounds, I think Houston can win this game at home. But if Arizona gets Houston into foul trouble, which is a big reason why they lost against Arizona State, because guys like Emmanuel Sharp were in foul trouble. Sanak was in foul trouble, so they couldn't really utilize him in the fourth quarter. I think Arizona can win this game if that happens. But being that it is at home, and UH always seems to turn up a notch whenever they play in the Fertitta Center, and with those players I just mentioned, if they can improve those things, I still think Houston can beat Arizona. You said it was 4.5 point spread. I think it might just be a little over that. I think Houston might win by 6 points if all things goes right.
All right, Alec.
Kevin said it best of all things that he put into display with Houston about the home court advantage, which bodes out well for Houston. If the constant home victory, the only time they've lost at home this season was against Tennessee, but that's been the rearview mirror right now. Kingston Flemings has played like the best player on Houston throughout this time frame, and Emmanuel Sharp is putting on a rebound year after last season in the national championship. This year for Houston is about finishing the job from last year, to finish the job and to pick up what was missing. So I think Houston pulls it out here over Arizona. It's going to be a tight game, but I think Houston wins and covers too.
All right, John.
I agree. I think this is picking up where you left off last year. I think Arizona, to use Kevin's favorite word, has proven to be false pretender,
fraud.
You know, with the last couple of losses that they've had, I don't think that they can go in and beat UH at home. I like Houston.
Okay. One of the problems with Arizona is that they struggle to close out games. They did it before, earlier in the year. Now they're not strong doing it. They've had trouble with BYU in the past. And Kansas upset them on the road when Bill Self was the best person on a Monday that you can get. But Houston's at home. It's going to be a loud environment in the Fertitta Center. I'm taking Houston. I think they cover 4.5 easily. Okay. So we are down to 18 minutes. Oh, less than 18 minutes, which means there's only one thing to do, and that is...
It's time for Fresh, Fine, or Fried.
This is the segment that closes out the show, and it is John's turn as he is on the rotation. Again, you will get 5 minutes to say whatever take you want. And at the end of your 5 minutes, you will be rated on a scale of fresh, fine, or fried by the rest of the panelists. Fresh meaning good, fine meaning okay, and fried meaning, whoo, you reek. John, are you ready?
Ready.
Go.
So one of the biggest sporting news events to unfold this week, other than or outside of the realm of the Winter Olympics, has been the bomb that was dropped yesterday. I was actually really proud of myself because I scooped Adam Schefter on this whole thing. I'm announcing it yesterday morning before anybody else caught wind of it. Was the Chicago Bears may be moving to Indiana or getting closer to moving to Indiana. And this has become a political football, if you will, between Indiana and the state of Illinois. Because what happened at this point was the state of Illinois completely dropping the ball and not coming up with a deal that would allow the Bears to actually build a stadium in Arlington Heights, which is where they've been looking at buying property and moving their stadium to. What's fascinating is what the Bears have been asking for is relief in property taxes. If they went in and bought the property in Arlington Heights and spent all this money, $2 billion, to develop this land, they're going to end up paying over $200 million in property taxes alone. So that's and what they were actually asking the Illinois legislature for relief to bring that number down, to make it more affordable for them to stay in Chicago and in Illinois. The controversy now comes as the state Senate subcommittee for the Ways and Means, which is how the Senate decides how the state's going to spend tax dollars, voted unanimously on a bill that would create a new tax in the state of Indiana, coming up with the money that would create a stadium authority that would work with the Chicago Bears in a private-public partnership, where the Bears take that $2 billion that they were going to spend in Illinois, move it just across the border, and start building a stadium in Indiana. Now, most Bears fans are losing their minds and their faces are completely melting because of the word Indiana. So I've been poking the bear really hard in a lot of these fan sites, and there are diehard Bears fans that are basically saying if the team moves out of Illinois, I will no longer be a fan of that team. Which I don't understand that, because I'm a Seahawks fan. My team's up for sale, and the potential for a new owner to come in and buy the team for $8 to $10 billion and then move it out of state, move it to a more tax-friendly state. I mean, there's a troll account right now that's talking about the Seahawks moving to Oklahoma City, and that's really pissing off a lot of people because we know what happened with the Sonics. So I understand where Bears fans are coming from, but I don't understand the angst. It's like, trying to explain to a Bears fan that the stadium is this far across the border, that they're probably going to have less traffic because they're not having to drive through Chicago. But, I'm actually just
1 minute.
One of the things that I came up with was the name the Indiana Bears, and Bears fans just lost it. The fact that you're not calling it the Chicago Bears anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, the scientists are in the middle of coming up with DNA from a dire wolf, and they're going to mix it with a bear, and it's going to be the Hoosier Bear, and that's the new mascot. The other thing that I said was, it's not like the Bears are moving to say, oh, I don't know, Wisconsin. Because that would be even worse. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Bears do. There's a lot of money involved, and at this point, Indiana is actually winning this by what they're doing. And I think the Chicago Bears will probably be in Indiana by the time it's all said and done.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow. Okay. All right. Kevin, Fresh, Fine, or Fried?
I'll say in between fresh and fine. The reason I have the discrepancy is because on the one hand, I completely get why, Bears fans would be frustrated if they were moving to Indiana and all that. On the other hand, like you said, John, it's also fresh in the sense that, like, you're going to a state that has, like, better, financials and all that, where they can build a new stadium. I think the issue for Bears fans is that they just don't want the Chicago to be out of, like, I can give you a perfect example. In the NHL, most recently, the Arizona Coyotes are no longer a team anymore. They got switched out and relocated to Utah, and now they turn into the Utah Mammoth. And of course, Arizona Coyote fans were absolute shambles for good reason. Their team basically got ripped away from them in place of, like, relocating to a different area. So I completely understand that part. And also, like, I think you said this in our Discord chat earlier, the place where they want to build the stadium, I think it's only 22 minutes or something like that from Soldier Field originally. So it's
the ironic part is East Chicago is further away from Chicago than Hammond, where the stadium is going to be built.
Yeah, and so I also think with that, I think it should be a scenario where, like, I think you just keep the Chicago in the name of the Bears, but you just play in a different stadium. Look at the Giants and the Jets. They're both called the New York Giants and New York Jets. all their games in the stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So
That's
I feel
true.
like that should just be a similar scenario in that sense. So I'll say like freshly fine. I'll say that.
Freshly fine. That's a new term. Okay, Alec, fresh, fine, or fried?
Overall, it's fine. Because the way it is that I get the frustration from Bears fans as well about why they would be moving over to moving over across the border, because you're not playing in Chicago. But as with Kevin said, the Giants and Jets, they don't play their games in New York. They play it in New Jersey, which is close to New York City. But also with the tax-free area, around Indiana. So what the owners are trying to do is avoid paying the taxes or the income tax in Chicago, for that matter, or Illinois, if you were to say that. But at the grand scheme of things, the whole complaints about Bears fans going over to another state, you're adding just a few more minutes of traffic going over from one area. But if you're a Bears fan that's living in Gary or Whitling, I feel you'd be okay with having the stadium be built in that area because that's close to you. So, but the complaints, I do not understand that or that matter. But nonetheless, when you're building it on the other side, which I can understand some of the frustrations for that because it's being further away from you. So I have some mixed feelings about all this. Like, some of it makes sense, but some of it really doesn't make sense to me. Like, what's the plan?
Yeah, it's a very strange situation. It was fine, and the reason why it was fine is because I think the Bears are doing an okay thing by going to Indiana and seeing what they got, paying less money to do that. And I think Bears fans are just really frustrated because the Bears are the only franchise that's been around since 1919. I guess I don't know the Packers are the other, but the Bears have always been the Bears, and they don't want to be taken out of Chicago. It's almost like when the Browns left Cleveland to become the Ravens. It's something along those lines where you don't want to take Chicago out of the team's name. You want to make it the Indiana team, but like regardless, if Bears fans are mad by just traveling a little bit farther, then that's colossally irresponsibly stupid on that part. I think that Bears fans need to calm down. They're still going to have a team. It's going to be a little bit farther down. I would say take the name Chicago out of the name. If it's closer to Chicago than where they initially play, I think this just is Chicago Bears. Although there is going to be a little Indiana twist. Because like Kevin said, there are teams that say New York Jets, New York Giants, but they don't actually play in New York. They play in New Jersey. And same with other things. Like, just because a team name says one thing doesn't mean that's what it really is. You can manipulate it somehow, but the way you explained it was really good. I do want to say fine overall.
Yeah, overall it's fine. But if they want to change the name up, what's it going to be? Gary Berries?
Gary Berries.
I've seen mock-ups where it says Gary Bears, and it pisses Chicago fans off.
Oh, Chicago.
Oh man.
This would be perfect to have.
The Cowboys are in Arlington. The
Right,
49ers,
that's right.
The 49ers
that's
are in Santa Clara.
That's
See, there
right.
you go.
And the Rams moved twice. They moved to St. Louis and then back twice.
That is correct. That's right.
Yeah. So they call it San Francisco 49ers, yet they play more than half an hour southeast of San Francisco.
Only team this has actually worked out for is probably the Raiders.
Right. Agreed.
Kept their fan base, kept their name, and they just moved to Vegas.
Yep. And they're not getting so lucky in Vegas, are they?
Well, yeah, it felt so real when they were called the Oakland Raiders.
It really did. It really did. All right. So, with that all being said and done, we're going to get into MyCam Solutions and Octagon Payments. MyCam Solutions and Octagon Payments is a wholesale credit card company located in Arizona, Tempe, Arizona to be exact, that will give you amazing processing rates without signing a long-term contract. And if you want a box, take it from me.
Hey, I'm Matt Sirianni, and I'm a quarter of Foursquare Sports. And if you don't know me by now, I'm all about Octagon Payments and MyCam Solutions. MyCam Solutions is the only wholesale credit card company that will give you amazing processing rates without signing a long-term contract. And along with outstanding customer service, this company is a betting favorite against anyone you put in front of them. So sign up today. Go to www.mycampsolutions.com or www.octagonpayments.com and apply now. My Camp Solutions. It's a first round knockout.
Well, Miami, Ohio is up 12 right now against Bowling Green, but don't count chicken before the hatch because Bowling Green's a really good team. So, Kevin, I know where you're going with this. You want to hype up Miami, Ohio, but don't count chicken before they hatch because I hate counting my chicken before they hatch. But one thing I am going to say,
I just like chicken.
Which, by the way, you cannot eat because it's a Friday of Lent. Oh, by the way, I mentioned Lent in the beginning of the show. I cannot fathom not eating meat on a Friday. Because I'm a big boy. I love to eat meat. I love me some meat.
Pause.
Oh, man. But, like, in all seriousness, like, Lent is great. You feel a little accomplished when you do
Does your
something.
girlfriend know?
Yes, she does. She knows I love meat. I love
means
meat.
you can't have. That means you can't have a Terlucio sandwich, Matt.
Actually, you know what? They made a sandwich for that.
They did?
They did. I forget what it's called. I think it's called the Ben-Hur sandwich, where it's shrimp parmesan with broccoli rabe, and then I think it's what else they add. It's shrimp parmesan sandwich. So now you take the protein out because shrimp is fish. It's fish. So technically, you're not eating.
Get a fillet of fish by McDonald's.
Oh, hell no.
No.
Excuse me,
Just
please.
ruined whatever credibility you had in this show.
No. Not fillet of
I haven't
fish.
had it.
Why?
I haven't had it. I hate seafood, so I can't endorse it. But I just thought this funny.
Cut your hair like a fish fillet, don't you?
First off, who in the right mind hates seafood?
I do. I don't like it.
What?
Wait, why not?
I don't like it. No. Every seafood has like the same like fishy smell that I don't like. It's also a texture thing depending on like what the seafood is. If it's like fried, if it's like fish and chips, fine. But if it's like or if it's like a crab cake, I don't mind that. But if it's like, like shrimp or like calamari, I don't like that.
Wait, you don't like shrimp and calamari?
Kev. What
Kev,
the hell?
what?
Quick story. When I was like 10 years old, I was at a cousin's wedding, and I went to go get some food, and I was like, ooh, onion rings. I thought they were onion rings, and then I bit into one. It was chewy. It ended up being, fried calamari, and I was like, ugh, I don't like this. And then like that just ruined my appetite for like anything seafood. I think it was at that point on.
Oh no.
Dude,
All right.
you are missing out.
You really are. Anyways, from Matt Sirianni, Kevin Zoskolix, Alec Nava, Jon Welch, God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Foursquare Sports. And like SpongeBob SquarePants always says, all people are the greatest. They're full of wisdom and experience. Always respect your elders on every which way you can. We will be back next week. We got a lot going on. John will be at the Combine next week. So that should be a fun experience for him. And because Seattle won, he doesn't have to act like David Portnoy. So that's awesome.
Old people like seafood. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Anyway, this has been Foursquare Sports, which is sports at its absolute best core. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Hi, everybody. Christopher Mad Dog Russo here. And you know what I do? Foursquare Sports on Sunday nights, 6 to 8, with all those parts of the country taken care of. Listen all the time. You got it. Mad Dog on Mad Dog Unleashed. Listen to my guys. Listen to my guys.